the year 356 BC, in the ancient capital of Pella, a child was born who would come to redefine the meaning of conquest and empire. This child, named Alexander, would later be known as Alexander the Great, a title earned through unparalleled military success and a legacy that would endure for millennia. Before he could embark on his legendary campaigns and build one of the largest empires in history, Alexander first had to secure his place on the throne of Macedonia and establish his authority over Greece. This is the story of his early life and his rise to power. Alexander was born into a world of political intrigue and warfare. His father, King Philip II of Macedonia, was a formidable ruler and military tactician who had transformed Macedonia from a relatively minor kingdom on the periphery of Greek politics into a dominant military power in the Greek world. Philip was born in 382 BC and became king in 359 BC after the deaths of his elder brothers. He inherited a kingdom on the brink of collapse, beset by internal strife and external threats. Yet, through a combination of political acumen, military innovation, and sheer determination, Philip managed to not only stabilize Macedonia, but also expand its territory and influence significantly. Under Philip's rule, Macedonia experienced a period of rapid military and political expansion. Philip's military reforms, including the creation of the Macedonian phalanx, a tightly packed infantry formation armed with long spears called sarissas, transformed his army into one of the most formidable fighting forces in the ancient world. By the time of Alexander's birth, Philip had already achieved significant victories over neighboring tribes and Greek city-states, including the decisive Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC, where Philip's forces crushed the combined armies of Athens and Thebes, effectively ending Greek resistance to Macedonian hegemony. This victory allowed Philip to form the League of Corinth, a federation of Greek states under Macedonian leadership, which was a precursor to his planned invasion of Persia. Alexander's mother, Queen Olympias, was equally influential in shaping his character and ambitions. Born in Epirus, a region to the west of Macedonia, Olympias came from the royal Molossian family, who claimed descent from the mythological hero Achilles. A deeply religious woman, Olympias was known for her devotion to the cult of Dionysus and her participation in ecstatic rituals. She was also fiercely protective of her son and reportedly filled Alexander's mind with stories of his divine heritage, suggesting that he was descended from both Achilles and Hercules, the greatest of Greek heroes. From an early age, Alexander exhibited an insatiable curiosity and a profound intelligence. Recognizing his son's potential, King Philip sought to provide him with the best education available. In 343 BC, when Alexander was 13 years old, Philip hired Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of the time, to tutor the young prince. Aristotle's influence on Alexander was profound. He instilled in Alexander a love for knowledge and inquiry. Alexander's education under Aristotle also included lessons in ethics, politics, and leadership, all of which would later be reflected in his style of governance and his approach to ruling a vast, diverse empire. But Alexander's education was not confined to the classroom. King Philip ensured that his son was also trained in the art of war from a young age. Alexander learned to ride horses, hunt, and fight, developing a reputation for courage and prowess in the process. One of the most famous stories from his youth involves the taming of Bucephalus, a wild horse that no one else could control. According to legend, Alexander noticed that the horse was afraid of its own shadow and, by turning Bucephalus toward the sun, was able to mount and tame him. Alexander's first experience in command came at the age of 16. In 340 BC, while Philip was away on a campaign against Byzantium, Alexander was left in charge of Macedonia as regent. During this time, a Thracian tribe known as the Madi revolted against Macedonian rule. Alexander acted swiftly, leading an army against the Madi, defeating them decisively, and establishing a city called Alexandropolis in their territory. This early success not only demonstrated Alexander's military capabilities, but also solidified his position as Philip's heir apparent. Despite his promising future, Alexander's relationship with his father became increasingly strained in the years leading up to Philip's death. Much of this tension arose from Philip's numerous marriages and political alliances, which threatened Alexander's status as the legitimate heir. The most significant source of tension came in 337 BC when Philip married Cleopatra Eurydice, a young Macedonian noblewoman. This marriage was controversial because it produced a potential rival for the throne. Any son born to Cleopatra would be a pure Macedonian, whereas Alexander, through his mother Olympias, was only half Macedonian. The tension between father and son came to a head during the wedding banquet of Philip and Cleopatra. At this event, Attalus, Cleopatra's uncle, openly called for a pure Macedonian heir to replace Alexander as Philip's successor. Infuriated, Alexander threw his cup at Attalus and accused him of treason. Philip, also enraged, attempted to attack Alexander with his sword, but allegedly drunk, stumbled and fell. Alexander, along with his mother, fled the palace and went into exile in Epirus. This incident created a temporary rift between father and son, with Alexander remaining in exile until a political reconciliation was arranged later that year. Despite their personal differences, Philip needed Alexander's loyalty as he prepared for his greatest ambition, the invasion of the Persian Empire. Philip had been building up his military forces for years, uniting the Greek city-states under the League of Corinth and securing their support for a campaign against Persia, which he presented as a pan-Hellenic crusade to avenge the Persian invasions of Greece in the early 5th century BC. However, before Philip could launch his campaign, he was assassinated in 336 BC at the wedding of his daughter Cleopatra to King Alexander I of Epirus, Olympias's brother. The assassin, Pausanias, was one of Philip's own bodyguards, and his motives remain a subject of speculation. Some ancient sources suggest a personal vendetta, while others hint at a broader conspiracy involving disgruntled Macedonian nobles or even Olympias herself. Philip's assassination left Macedonia in a precarious position. The kingdom was at a critical juncture, with external enemies poised to take advantage of the perceived weakness and internal factions potentially vying for power. At just 20 years old, Alexander moved quickly to secure his claim to the throne. With the support of the army, which had been loyal to his father, Alexander was proclaimed king. However, his ascension was not uncontested. Several factions within the Macedonian aristocracy viewed Philip's death as an opportunity to challenge the young king's authority. To consolidate his rule, Alexander acted swiftly and decisively. He eliminated potential rivals, including his cousin Amyntas IV, who had a legitimate claim to the throne as the son of Perdiccas III, Philip's elder brother. Amyntas was executed, as were other potential claimants and perceived threats to Alexander's rule. The family of Cleopatra Eurydice, Philip's last wife, was also purged, with some sources suggesting that Cleopatra and her infant daughter were executed, possibly at the behest of Olympias. These actions, while brutal, were effective in eliminating any immediate threats to Alexander's position as king. With his position secure in Macedonia, Alexander turned his attention to the Greek city-states. The news of Philip's death had emboldened several Greek states to consider revolting against Macedonian dominance. Thebes, Athens, Sparta, and other states were restive and saw an opportunity to regain their independence. The most significant challenge came from Thebes, which had been a major power in Greece and had never fully reconciled itself to Macedonian domination following the Battle of Chaeronea. In 335 BC, Alexander marched south with a force of over 30,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry to reassert Macedonian authority over Greece. His speed and decisiveness caught the Greek city-states off guard. Most cities quickly reaffirmed their loyalty to Macedonia upon his approach, but Thebes chose to resist. The Thebans, encouraged by false rumors of Alexander's death in a battle in Illyria, revolted and expelled the Macedonian garrison from the city. In response, Alexander moved swiftly to Thebes and laid siege to the city. Despite offering the Thebans a chance to surrender, the city chose to resist. The ensuing battle was a decisive Macedonian victory. The city of Thebes was captured, and Alexander ordered it to be razed to the ground. Approximately 6,000 Thebans were killed, and 30,000 were sold into slavery. The destruction of Thebes served as a brutal warning to any other Greek states considering rebellion. It demonstrated that Alexander was not just a youthful successor to Philip, but a capable and ruthless leader in his own right. The fall of Thebes had a profound psychological impact on Greece. The other city-states, including Athens, quickly capitulated to Alexander's demands. To solidify his control, Alexander called a congress of the Greek states at Corinth. Here, he was confirmed as the hegemon, or leader of the Hellenic League, an alliance of Greek states united for the purpose of launching a pan-Hellenic campaign against Persia. Stay tuned as we continue the story of Alexander the Great, the man who would become a legend. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wars and Warlords. Until next time, keep exploring the past to understand the present.